Halloween, a night when the line between the living and the dead grows thin, when the familiar world fades, and another older world presses close. Figures move in disguise, but beneath the masks lies a story older than memory itself, a tale born from fire, prophecy, and the restless dead. Before pumpkins glowed, before trick-or-treaters walked the streets, there was Samhain, the great Celtic fire festival, a turning point in the year when the last harvest was gathered, and the veil between realms was at its most fragile. On this night, the dead returned. Spirits drifted across fields and hearths, and the living, fearful yet reverent, left offerings to keep them at bay. This was no child's play, but the echo of a world shaped by gods, by fae, by shadowed rites. Over centuries, Romans, Christians, and medieval fears layered themselves onto this ancient fire, forging the strange and haunted festival that survives to this day. From its Celtic heart to its modern mask, Halloween carries within it whispers of Samhain, a night when the past still breathes through the dark. Samhain, a word spoken softly, almost swallowed by the wind, yet it carries the weight of centuries. For the Celts, Samhain was more than the end of the harvest. It was the end of light itself. As October gave way to November, the days grew short, the nights stretched long, and the world seemed to pause, caught between life and death. It was in this stillness, at the edge of winter, that a door opened to the unknown. This was a liminal time, a threshold where the veil between worlds grew thin. On this night, the spirits of the dead walked among the living. Ghosts and shadows, once confined to memory, became immediate and real. The Celts believed these spirits were not empty shades. They were ancestors, protectors, but also vengeful beings, seeking something from the living, to hold them back or to win their favor. The people built great bonfires. Their flames leapt against the darkness, a signal to both the living and the dead. But the fire was not their only defense. Masks and costumes were worn, animal skins, painted faces, to confuse the spirits that wandered the night. And on doorsteps, offerings were left, food and drink, to satisfy the hungry dead. Better to give freely than to risk their wrath. Central to Samhain were the Ios Sea, spirits and fair folk of Celtic lore, far from harmless. They were keepers of the other world, powerful, dangerous, tricksters who could lure mortals astray. On this night, above all, they demanded respect. Gifts were left to appease them, and children were warned, do not wander into the dark. The Druids, the priestly order, guided the tribes through the rites. They gathered at the fires, casting their eyes into the flames, seeking visions of what was to come. For them, Samhain was a night of prophecy, a chance to glimpse the year ahead. Would the people thrive, or would they suffer? The answer smoldered in the embers. But Samhain was not only a night of ritual, it was also a night of stories, tales of spirits returning not as kind visitors, but as vengeful shades, dragging the living with them, of creatures that prowled the forests, and things too dark to name. The cults knew the other world was no dream. It was a mirror of our own, shadowed and perilous. And so, with the fires burning, they kept vigil, honoring the dead, protecting the living. Samhain marked the end of one cycle and the beginning of another, a doorway to the past and the future, a doorway that, even now, remains slightly ajar. But the story of Samhain did not remain purely Celtic for long. The Romans came with their legions, and with their gods. They conquered with stone and sword, but also with ritual. Wherever they marched, they carried their festivals. And in the Celtic lands, Samhain was drawn into their embrace. The Romans were skilled at this. They did not erase, they absorbed. They gave old gods new names, old fires new faces. And so the flames of Samhain merged with Roman rites, festivals of harvest, festivals of the dead, bound together beneath the autumn sky. One goddess rose above the rest. Pomona, lady of orchards, keeper of fruit and ripening life. In her honor, apples were offered, symbols of plenty and of prophecy. It was said, bite into an apple on Samhain night, and you might glimpse your future, a lover, a fate, a destiny yet to unfold. What seems a game today was once a ritual of divination. The fruit was more than food. It was a portal, The Romans also brought Feralia, a day to honor the restless dead, offerings left at graves, prayers whispered into the soil, customs not so different from the gifts once left at Celtic doors. As the cultures intertwined, their fears found kinship. Roman dread of forgotten souls met Celtic reverence for wandering spirits. What emerged was a woven festival, a mingling of harvest and haunting, a night of ripening life and creeping death. But this merging carried shadows. Apples that promised futures also carried the weight of prophecy. Offerings to Roman spirits echoed gifts to the Ow's Sea. The old fears did not fade. They wore new masks, for the Celts knew, and the Romans came to learn that some forces could never be tamed. Samhain, now tinged with Roman gods, continued to evolve, a night of masks, of offerings, of whispers from the other world. And though reshaped, its heart still beat in the rhythm of the dead. When the Christian church turned its gaze upon the Celtic lands, it saw more than kings and tribes. It saw festivals of fire, and a people whose gods still walked. To conquer the spirit of a people, one must conquer their sacred days. And so, the church sought not to erase Samhain, but to claim it, to sanctify it. In the 7th century, Pope Boniface IV declared a feast, a day to honor saints and martyrs, All Saints' Day. At first it was held in May, but soon it was moved to November the 1st, to stand where Samhain once stood. It was a shrewd design, a calculated attempt to turn the people from spirits and fair folk towards saints and the holy dead. But the work was not finished. Another feast was added, All Souls' Day, on November the 2nd, a day to pray for the departed, trapped between this life and the next. Together these holy days wrapped themselves around Samhain, but the night before, the vigil, remained untamed, All Hallows' Eve, Halloween. Here, the old ways endured, fires still burned on hilltops, candles still flickered in windows, and disguises still cloaked the living. Only now, children might dress as saints or devils, as angels or demons. The forms were Christian, but the fear was older, for the people knew, while saints might be honored, other forces walked as well. Witches, spirits, things the church could not name. The holy had not banished the dark. It had only given it new shapes. In the medieval night, this dual nature thrived. Church bells tolled for souls, while fires roared outside against the black. Candles lit for the faithful departed. Charms hung to keep the restless dead away. It was a season of prayer and of superstition, of faith and of fear. Halloween became a night between, neither fully sacred nor wholly profane. A festival where the church's saints stood shoulder to shoulder with shadows, far older than Christendom. In medieval Europe, Halloween began to take on new forms. The church's holy days shaped the calendar, but the people's customs shaped the night. One such custom was souling. On the eve of All Saints and All Souls, the poor would wander from door to door. They offered prayers for the departed, and in return, received small round cakes, soul cakes. Each one eaten was said to lift a soul from purgatory, carrying it closer to heaven. But behind the church's blessing, the echoes of older offerings could still be heard. The food once left for spirits, now given for souls of the dead. From souling grew another tradition. Guising, children, and sometimes adults, wrapped themselves in masks and costumes, saints, angels, or demons. They roamed the night, reciting verses or songs, seeking food, ale, or coins. The disguise was more than play. It was protection. To become something else was to hide from wandering spirits, or to mimic them. Yet the night was filled with more than charity. Fear of witches spread through the villages. Women accused of consorting with the devil, figures said to gather beneath the moon, casting curses, summoning storms, and there were ghosts, restless souls who lingered near their homes, haunting those they left behind, or seeking vengeance on the living. The people told of banshees, whose cries foretold death, and of black dogs that prowled the roads, omens of doom. These were not children's tales. They were part of daily life, respected and feared. To ward them off, iron was nailed above doors. Crossroads were marked with offerings, charms and prayers carried in pockets to shield against the unseen. But still, the veil was thin, And on Halloween night, the people turned to rites of divination, apples peeled in long strips, tossed over the shoulder to reveal the initial of a future love, a candle lit before a mirror, where one might see the face of a destined bride or groom, or the shadow of death. Even the humblest hazelnut, cast into the fire, carried meaning. One that burned bright promised love. One that cracked foretold sorrow. Thus Halloween became a night between. Holy hymns were sung, ghost stories whispered, the faithful prayed, and the fearful watched the dark. It was a night of saints and spirits, of sacred and profane, of firelight and shadow. In the 19th century, a new land became home to the old traditions. Across the Atlantic, America opened its shores to waves of Irish and Scottish immigrants, and with them came Samhain and All Hallows' Eve. The spirits of the old world were carried into the new, and like seeds scattered in foreign soil, they began to grow in unexpected ways. In crowded streets and rural towns, the festival found new life, less bound to the sacred, more bound to community. The fears of the medieval past gave way to something more playful. Children roamed in disguise, knocking on doors, seeking not prayers, but treats. What had once been souling, what had once been guising, slowly transformed into the call of trick or treat. But in these early years, the old rites remained. Apples bobbed in basins of water, their fruit a test of fortune. Young women gazed into mirrors by candlelight, hoping to see the face of their future husband, or the shadow of something else. Ghost stories were told by firelight, not only of Celtic spirits, but of American phantoms as well. The Headless Horseman, ships said to sail forever off the coast of Maine. The night became one of telling and retelling, a mingling of old world and new. But Halloween in America carried another face: mischief. Gates unhinged, wagons overturned, windows soaped. A night when rules bent, and chaos was allowed to walk the streets. For some, it was harmless fun. For others, a dangerous edge. Still, beneath the laughter and the tricks, the old shadows lingered, the voices of Samhain, the whispers of the dead, now planted in new soil, ready to change again. As Halloween took root in America, the night began to change once more. By the early 20th century, Mischief Night had grown unruly. Pranks once playful turned to vandalism. Windows shattered, fires lit in alleys, entire towns unsettled by the chaos. During the Great Depression, the unrest deepened. Halloween became a stage for frustration and rebellion. Some communities even called for the festival to be banned, but others sought to save it. Parents, teachers, civic leaders, they reimagined the night. They gave it structure. Parades replaced pranks. Costume contests filled school halls. Pumpkins were carved in contests of light, not smashed in anger. Haunted houses were built, offering safe thrills within walls. And slowly, the wild night was tamed, yet one tradition rose above the rest: trick or treat. It was a simple bargain, a promise wrapped in sugar. Give the children sweets, or risk a trick. It spread from town to town, door to door, until it became the heart of Halloween. By mid-century, a new force seized the moment: the candy industry. Homemade cakes and apples faded. In their place came wrappers of chocolate, kernels of candy corn, brightly colored sugar. Each autumn, stores filled with treats, perfectly sized for a child's hand. Candy became the new currency of Halloween, a peace offering, a treasure, a ritual. By the 1950s, suburban streets echoed with laughter. Children dressed as pirates and princesses, witches and ghosts, knocking on doors beneath the watchful eyes of parents and neighbors. Halloween had become a family celebration, safe, structured, sweet. But even in this new form, the old shadows lingered. The thrill of disguise, the glow of jack-o'-lanterns, the whisper of something moving in the dark beneath the candy and costumes. Samhain still breathed. In the glow of the silver screen, Halloween found new life. By the mid-20th century, the night was no longer just about costumes and candy. It became a night of stories, of fear, of fascination. Hollywood reached into the shadows of folklore and pulled monsters into the light. Masked killers stalking the suburbs, vampires and werewolves reborn for a new age. witches silhouetted against the moon. The holiday itself became a character, something alive, waiting, watching. Television joined the dance. From family tales like It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, to chilling episodes of The Twilight Zone. Across American living rooms, the flicker of haunted houses and graveyards turned Halloween into a shared ritual, not only of costumes and sweets, but of gathering together to be scared. The old symbols returned in new forms: the jack-o'-lantern, its grin carved deep, its light warding off the dark, born in Irish tales of Stingy Jack, a wanderer trapped between worlds, once carved from turnips, now from pumpkins. Its glow both a warning and a guide, and the ghosts, once whispered of in Celtic villages, now drifting across screens, pale, translucent, eternal. Hollywood gave them shape and voice, but their roots were ancient. Haunted houses rose not only on film, but in the real world. Actors and masks, mechanical monsters, a thrill of fear contained within walls. Here was the safe danger of Halloween, a chance to step into the dark and back into the light again. Media reshaped the old bones of the festival. It dressed them in new flesh, but at its core, the heartbeat remained the same. Halloween became a night where past and present merged, where old terrors took new forms, and where the shadows spoke through the stories we tell. Halloween, the night when shadows stretch long and the veil between worlds grows thin. It has traveled far from its origins, from the fires of Samhain to the glow of jack-o'-lanterns, from whispered prayers for the dead to the laughter of children in disguise. Each age gave it new faces: the Celts, the Romans, the Church, the New World, Hollywood. And yet, beneath every mask, the same truth remains. This is a night of thresholds, a night of endings and beginnings, of disguises and revelations, a night when the living honor the dead, and when the dead draw close enough to be heard. The candy, the costumes, the parades and films, they are only layers. Beneath them still burns the fire of Samhain, a festival of life and death, of fear and reverence, of shadows, just beyond the reach of the flame. So, when you carve your pumpkin, when you walk the darkened street, when you laugh beneath the mask, remember, this night is older than memory, older than Rome, older than the church. It is a night that does not forget. And if you listen closely, in the silence between footsteps, in the whisper of the autumn wind, you may hear them, the voices of the old ones, the watchers at the threshold, still waiting, still watching, as the veil begins to open once more.